Hello, guys. I'm going to give you the 5 albums, CDs, tapes, whatever you want to call it these days, were explosive and came onto the scene and just put a punch right when it came on and put these bands on the map as soon as it came out. One of those albums that just wakes up your eyes and your ears and just, wow, that's coming right up. Stick around. The first one I'm going to give you is when I first heard it, I came out with it and on the radio and first heard it, I was amazed. It's a type of song that it doesn't matter what decade it is, what time of the day it is, that sort of thing. You can crank it up and it would just be, it's an epic masterpiece. It always has been and it always will be. And that is 2112. Now this one here from Rush, when I've told people for a long time that before this album came out, you know, they had Working Man, they had Fly By Night. This one came out in 1976, but Rush was losing their success big time. It started to go downhill. And people stopped buying the albums. The one before it, Caress of Steel, didn't do very well. I believe that's what it was. Yes, Caress of Steel. It didn't do very well. Failure. Nobody was going to the concert. So they changed their idea and they moved into a different spot. And, you know, I got Wikipedia up here, so it tells you about it. Because it was released in 1976. They had 4 albums before it. The band was in financial hardship due to the album's disappointment, Caress of Steel, unfavorable critical reception, decline of attendance in the shows, and even the record company was about to drop them. But when 2112 was released, reviews from the music critics and quickly outsold the band's previous albums. It just exploded onto the scene. And I'll tell you why. This song right here, Overture and Temple of the Syrinx, those two right there, when you first listen to those two songs right there, Passage to Bangkok Live is awesome. But when you first hear those two songs right there, when the album comes in, it just puts Rush right on the map. Neil Peart, when he does the drums for it, nothing sounded like it beforehand. And that time after, when he started playing that with the drums, and it was just put Rush in a state where this drummer, his writing, everything he's ever done for Rush was just so noticeable and huge and epic, and it was just a total masterpiece. And it all started with Overture and Temple of the Syrinx. And after that, Rush spent 40 years plus dominating the rock scene, classic rock scene, and all that. So anytime you want to get into Rush and start listening to them, start with this album here. I mean, you can listen to the ones before it, and they're good and everything. But this right here, Overture 1 and Temple of the Syrinx 2 and all that, is a total masterpiece. 2112, the album, it got rave reviews. It was amazing. That's the first one you should look into and buy, definitely, if you want a total masterpiece. And my advice is crank it up in any car or any place you do beforehand. Now this is the second one. Then this is in no particular order because there are so many albums out there that exploded on the scene. I'd be doing this all day and I don't have a lot of time to do it, so I just chose 5. This one here came out in a tough time when it comes to competition when it comes to other albums and different things like that. And you look at 1987, and all of these albums that came out that year was a huge time for competition. Anthrax Among the Living was put pretty much Anthrax on the map, even though they were around for a while. But you had Def Leppard's Hysteria. You had Motley Crue's Girls, Girls, Girls. You had, well, of course, Dio, Dream Evil, but, you know, Dio's been pretty big before then. But you had Aerosmith, Permanent Vacation, Ozzy Osbourne's Tribute, which was huge that year. You had Anthrax's I'm the Man. You had Garage Days Revisited, Metallica, Once Bitten, Great White. But then you had Whitesnake's 1987 Whitesnake album. That right there made the year for them. That was one of their biggest albums that came out that year. But this band exploded onto the scene and just did their own thing. They did their own thing and created their own thing, and there was nothing like it in the world, and that was Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses. Now, this is an album that exploded onto the scene, and they had the perfect song, just like 2112, Overture. They had the perfect song that started out that just told everybody, hello, we're here and we're here to stay. The punch-packing song was Welcome to the Jungle. And the thing about this album is, even 2, It's So Easy, was another song that just exploded onto the scene and said, you know what? We're huge, and we're going to be huge, and we're here to stay. There's nothing going to be like us in the world. Our sound is different. Our look is different. We're not one of those long hair bands that everybody else, you know, does their own thing. We're not a Poison. We're not a Def Leppard. We're not a Whitesnake. We're none of those bands. We are our own thing, and there's no one going to copy us. No one going to, there's not going to be anything like us, and we're going to start this out by showing you, hey, welcome to the jungle. We're here to stay, and we're going to blast you. That's the perfect album and the perfect song to start off that year for them. And they haven't stopped. Fans have not stopped buying this album. This is probably their masterpiece. Even though they're probably their best song for me would be November Rain. That's their masterpiece song. But this album here, how many hits did they have that year? Welcome to the Jungle, My Michelle, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, Mr. Brownstone. The whole album, there's not one boring song in the album. Never has been. That's the thing about them. I was trying to see how many albums they sold. 30 million copies sold worldwide. I'm sure it's more by now. But that song right there, Welcome to the Jungle and It's So Easy, was one of those songs where, you know, it just hit you hard. It woke you up and you were thinking, wow, who is this? This is going to be, this is huge, and this band's going to be huge. There is nothing like this in the world, and even says here, later attributed this to the competing rock music in mainstream at the time, including Aerosmith's Comeback, Permanent Vacation, Def Leppard's Hysteria. Of course, you had U2 that year with Joshua Tree, one of their biggest albums, but they were not in the same category. But this right here woke people up. People, you know, as a teenager, I listened to this and I thought to myself, what the heck is this? This is nothing like anything I've ever heard before. This is awesome. You know, so many people on the cruising strips and so many, you know, teenagers and everybody that hung out. There wasn't one person that didn't buy this tape album. There wasn't one person that didn't know what this was. Everyone was listening to it. It was household name in its first year, 1987. And what made it even bigger was MTV, the Ritz concert, and the video, Welcome to the Jungle. So that's number 2. The explosive album for this band, number 2. Now, what I like about this one here, this next one here, is when I first heard it, it's almost like it sounds kind of like a wick from a stick of dynamite. You hear that boom like that. And when I first heard this, I thought, damn, this is good. You know, this one just, it's almost like getting kicked right in the rear end. As soon as this song came out, the beginning of this song, it was just a huge bang. A huge wake-up call for rock music. And this band has never stopped being awesome. And that's Queensryche, which came out in 1983. That's when I first heard it, when they first started playing it on the radio. With Jeff Tate's voice. It's probably got, to me, was one of the highest voices, strongest voices I've ever heard. One of the, this one is like one of the punch you right in the back of the head kind of songs. And it's a perfect beginning for it because, like I said, it sounds like a wick, sound of a wick going off before you hear a stick of dynamite. And the thing about this album, there's only 4, when it came out, there's only 4 songs on it. And that's 2 popular ones, Queen of the Reich and The Lady Wore Black. But Queen of the Reich was the one that I thought, damn, this is one of those albums that just, bam, just right in your face kind of songs. And one of those things that came right onto the scene and said, you know what, top this. And they have been popular, a huge band ever since, one of the biggest heavy metal bands of all time. I've seen them years ago, and they were just as awesome. It was released in September 1983 through 206 Records and reissued later the same year through EMI. But the best ones are the first ones you buy, of course. In the early 80s, Queensryche was known as The Mob, a cover band that played songs from heavy metal bands such as Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. And believe me, Jeff Tate's voice can emulate any Rob Halford, that's for sure. Inspired by positive responses for their performances at local rock festivals, the Mob decided to switch their playing cover songs to writing original music. The 4 members, who were between 17 and 19 years old, rehearsed 5 days a week in a basement in Rockenfield's parents, which was drummer, and took the last 2 jobs each to earn enough money to record 24-track demo tape. They booked the graveyard shifts for Monday through Friday through Triad Studios in Redmond, Washington, to record 4 songs. Tate was asked to join the band for the recording sessions in the same week, write the lyrics to one unfinished song, which became The Lady Wore Black. It's one of their most popular, successful songs of all time. But it says Kim Harris sent the demo tape and band photo to a friend at the British music magazine Kerrang, resulting in glowing review. But anyway, it's a good story if you want to read it inside the Wikipedia. But it was ranked 336 in Rock Hard Magazine's book of 500 greatest rock albums of all time. And it's only 4 songs. 4 songs is all it was. But the first song, Queen of the Reich, that's boom, like that. And the whole song from beginning to end is just hard driven. This is something that, if you've never heard it before, it'll really surprise you when you crank it up on the radio or your stereo in your car. It'll really surprise you if you don't know what's coming. You're about to find out, because it really kicks you right in the rear end, for sure. Now, this next one is probably number 4. Would be the reason this is my favorite band of all time, is because when I heard this album that come out in '83, when I first heard it in '83, and I bought the record because I've heard this song, "Flight of Icarus" on the radio. I said I'm gonna try it out and see if it's any good, something different. And I like the song. I like the craft work behind it. When I first bought it and I heard this first song that came out, I thought, this is huge. This is, bam, one of those things that just said, it's opening doors to someone. It opened doors to Nicko McBrain and his first album. The first song that he's done on the album, his drumming skills, basically telling everybody, he came out and kicked everybody in the back of the head with this song, and just woke up the world to who he was, and it's been my favorite band ever since, because of this album, and that would be Iron Maiden's "Peace of Mind." And the song that wakes everybody up is "Where Eagles Dare." Now, I heard "Flight of Icarus" and I thought I'm going to buy this album, but "Where Eagles Dare" is probably the toughest, I would say probably one of the toughest drum works I've ever heard, because the whole song is just, it's one of those Neil Peart type songs that just keeps going and going and going. It's almost like a battle cry or something like that. It's hard to explain unless you hear it, but it's definitely one of those songs where punching the back of the head, and puts Iron Maiden, even though Iron Maiden was out beforehand and they were popular, Bruce Dickinson brought him to the spotlight with "Number of the Beast." "Peace of Mind" brought Iron Maiden to the spotlight with Nicko McBrain. And he showed himself to the world with this work he did in that first song. It was released in '83, EMI Records again, and in Capitol Records, United States. It was the first album featured Nicko McBrain, who had recently left the band Trust and has been Iron Maiden's drummer ever since, and it's been awesome. I mean, when I saw them a few years ago, and they played the song with the red and the black, for those of you that haven't heard it, listen to it on YouTube. I listen to the song all the time live because I never get bored of it, and I thought to myself, how does this guy keep going at his age throughout that entire song without missing a step? He has just been amazing ever since. It received critical and commercial success, reaching number 3 on the UK album charts. But he was probably the pinnacle of this entire album. He is the reason for the popularity, I think, because it's almost like it was one of those albums that it's like cheese, rat to cheese kind of thing, where you it dangles it in front of you to get you tempted, and it just takes you away and says, you know what, I'm buying it. This has got me hooked. This is one of those things that got me definitely hooked on the music. Even though the entire album is hugely popular, The Trooper's probably one of their most famous pictures Iron Maiden's ever done. The song is popular, but Where Eagles Dare is one of those tough works that just puts him on the map and does so many things for him. And he's been in their one of the key members of the band ever since. Definitely an Iron Maiden staple. Definitely a song that it just busts right through the thing, right through the wall, and punches you in the back of the head and say, we're here and we're here to stay. It's definitely one of those things for sure. And the fifth and last one, everyone should know this. Now, I'll probably do more of these later because there are so many albums that come out that just put bands on the map. It was a wake-up call to everybody, one of those we're here to stay kind of things. It opened doors for everyone, just woke the world up, that kind of thing. But this album here came out in the 70s. It's one of their biggest albums ever done. There's people still buying it now. And there's so many stories you can put out from this band. but that is Van Halen 1. And I say this because now, even though the Eruption instrumental, When You Really Got Me, is the second and third song, it should have been the first. And I say that because Eruption's one of those things where it just told the world that Eddie Van Halen, there's nothing like this. No guitarist ever sounded like this before. No guitarist probably never will sound like this ever. But we had your Black Sabbath, and we had your Led Zeppelins, and your Jimmy Pages, and your Tony Iommis, and things like that. But nothing sounded as hard driven than Eruption in the beginning of this album. Even though Running with the Devil is probably is hard driven, but Eruption woke everyone up to the world and says, bam, hit you right in the face. It's one of those things that has never stopped waking people up ever since. Even though it was released in '78, their first album, they began recording demos in '76. Gene Simmons is the one that noticed them at Whiskey A Go Go. Ted Templeman is the one that pretty much, with him and David Lee Roth, it's been their staple with the Roth years. But there's so many things in this album. You Really Got Me, Ain't Talking About Love. Atomic Punk is another song that's just hard driven. Something you've never heard before. But Eruption is one of those things where it's just wow, bam, like that. One of those punch-packing songs that just right in the side of the jaw. And it's probably been ever since. Now, it's just Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen, may rest in peace, had so many things ever since that he's done, the creative work that he's done, his solos and being a part of all these albums. And Van Halen would not be Van Halen without him, for sure. Of course, they wouldn't be the same name. But according to Wikipedia, which, it's considered one of the best electric guitar solos of all time. So many people have copied it. So many people have tried to copy it. But the Really Got Me is a cover from the Kings. But the Eruption, you can take Eruption and you can shuffle the album on your stereo CD in your car, and Eruption will sound good with any song in the album afterwards. Like if Eruption played through and it ended and the fourth song kicked in, Ain't Talking About Love, it sounds like it goes together. On Fire and Atomic Punk, it just sounds like it goes together with every song in that album. But it seems like every Van Halen album had a solo in it ever since. But Eruption is probably one of the most popular openings to an album, even though it shouldn't have been number 2. It's probably one of the biggest openings for a guitar player, instrumental player, or anything for a band, as a wake-up call in rock and roll. And there's nothing going to be like it in our history. There's people out there who can play it, but nothing's going to sound as good as Eddie Van Halen does, especially that first one. When I first heard it, it got me hooked. And like so many people, it's Eruption that gets everybody hooked on that album. I don't think anyone, as a matter of fact, well, I wouldn't say everybody, but there are so many people out there that started playing guitar. Even the most popular guitar players out there today will tell you that that's the song that made them start playing guitar. A lot of them became who they were because of that song. It made them want to run out there and buy one. The same thing goes with Nicko McBrain and a lot of those albums out there that I've mentioned. So many of them out there that they didn't mention. I get passionate about this stuff. But anyway, there you have it. I'll do more later, but for now, that's it. That's why it's so hard to talk about this for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It's very difficult, especially when it comes to some of the best albums out there. So there you have it. I appreciate everybody being here and watching the channel. And by the way, don't forget to listen to Reverse Radio. It's a 24/7 station. I have all these songs and more on Reverse Radio. Links are at the bottom. 24-hour online station. The past that rocks. Rocking your past off. But I appreciate everybody being here. And check out the links. Check out the station at the bottom. So many places you can go to listen. And the website as well. Facebook. And Twitter. And you name it, it's out there. So I appreciate it. I hope you like it. And until next time, when I have more, see ya. Hey everybody, don't forget to check out Reverse 96 FM on TuneIn, Streema, and now internetradio.com.